So I'm here with Seamus Hughes. Seamus, you're a jack of all trades. You're a dairy farmer and you also work with PG. Maybe tell us about your role in PG and what kind of farm you're running at home.
Yeah, well, first of all, George, I'm also overawed to be interviewed by you at all, to be honest with you. The first time I saw you, myself and my wife were sitting down in the sitting room looking at you on first dates. And ever since then, you've become a bit of a celebrity in the farming world. But yeah, I am a bit of a jack of all trades. I'm from North Wexford. I started in PG, would you believe, 26 years ago. And the environment was totally different then in terms of what we were looking for in terms of breeding, etc., etc. And if we're to be honest, we made a lot of mistakes, and including myself, and an awful lot of the breeding advice that time, when we look back on it now, we were wrong, and to a large degree. But certainly in the last 10 to 15 years, we have seen, you know, a revolution in making dairy cows and our dairy industry more profitable in Ireland, and a lot of that has come down to getting our genetics right. And you know, it's a collaboration between all the different vested interests in the industry in Ireland since the ICBF started in 2000. And you know, some of us were dragged into it kicking and screaming from the point of view of we wanted our high-type cows, our North American genetics, etc., etc. And look, we've learned maybe some of us the hard way, but I would say for certainly farmers who are new to the industry now, so much of the heavy lifting has been done. They can make progress now really, really quickly, considering the type of bulls that's available. So
on your home farm, I mean, what kind of change have you seen personally?
I went from 40% 6-week calving rate 12, 13 years ago to 80% last year. We went from 3.2% protein to 3.6% last year. We went from less than 400 kilos to 500 kilos of solids. And just putting that in context, I'm milking 120 cows at home. I think that's worth about 25, 30 grand a year to me.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of money, and apart from the money, because money doesn't motivate everything, my lifestyle has changed. Last year, in the last calving season, and I know I got a bit lucky, but I never had the vet in the yard because I have a more robust cow, a more fertile cow, and a cow that's easier to handle. And
what's the best way for me to kind of maybe decide what bulls to use and what cows? If I've picked out the bulls I want, where do, like, you know, sire advice is obviously you're going to say, but like, how does that work and why is it even effective at all?
Well, sire advice is very effective, but first of all, I think it's really, most farmers either don't have the interest or the expertise to look at all those bloody numbers on a catalogue and figure out what bull is for them. So I would say to them, if to do anything as regards taking some advice, there's two key numbers here. One is the milk or production subindex, right? And that's your A plus B minus C ranking. Okay, yes. That's your payment system, and it'll put all the values in. And
just to clarify that, sorry for interrupting. A plus B minus C, fat plus protein minus milk.
Exactly. Yeah. So we rank the bulls based on the way we're paid for bulls, and that's your milk or production subindex. It also takes into consideration the value of protein over fat, which is very important, right? So production subindex is one real important criteria. I'm saying 90 to 100. So anything less than that, just throw them out, okay? The second one is fertility, because without fertility, you don't get production, because they won't calve down early enough and they won't stay around long enough. So fertility equals production, and I'm saying 150 on that. So 100 on milk subindex, 150 on fertility subindex, and I'm really confident that you'll breed a really profitable herd of cows by just doing that.
And now I just want to say, for guys that are maybe milking at home, they're running 4 or 5 stock bulls, they're having a good condensed calving, they've never used AI, what do you say to them? They're thinking about it, but they're just afraid to make that leap. What are you going to say to them to encourage them?
Well, look, the first thing is it's their herd of cows, it's their lifestyle and it's their farm, and let them do it. Whatever they feel is right for them, that's fine. But if they're in the business of making life, first of all, easier for themselves in terms of more compact calving, and if they have a young family and maybe an heir or two coming up to take over the farm, they'd like to leave them in a business that's very efficient and very profitable going into the future. And like it was mentioned earlier on, like versus the average, the guys who are just doing a reasonable job in breeding, like 3, 4, 5 cents a litre over the average, that's a hell of a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money.
Yeah. I suppose, Seamus, just finishing off, I'd like to say thanks a million, first of all, for taking the time to talk to us. And lastly, just again, to drill home the facts, what's your go-to advice for lads this breeding season? What do they need to do? What's your advice for them?
Okay, key thing, keep it simple. Munster or Progressive will do the sire advice for you. The sire advice is a mating program. We can do it online. and it does an inbreeding check, very important. So we can do that for you. Second thing is, in terms of our fresh panel of bulls, we've already picked a panel of 12 bulls that reach 100 on production subindex and 150 on fertility subindex. All you really need to do here, George, is call the AI man.
Okay, Seamus, listen, thanks a million.
Okay, thanks, George.
Cheers.